Let's go to Ohio. Representative Gary Click joining us right now. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Great to see you again, OH.
I.O. in the house, man. I used to work in Columbus, Ohio. That's the big Ohio Buckeyes chant, of course. Now, the question is, will voter ID be on the November ballot in the Buckeye state? Like, what's the latest going on there with that?
Yeah, we had some marathon sessions this week, and we passed it out of the House to put it on put the referendum on the ballot, and so it is going to be on the ballot in November, and I'm looking forward to that. That's what the voters want. The voters believe in integrity. They want to know that the person who's casting that ballot is who they say they are, not someone else. They want to eliminate fraud. Ohio is a great place. We've had some wonderful secretaries of state. Easy to vote, hard to cheat, and we're just doubling down on that now.
And that's always good to hear. And then I posted something about this on Truth Social the other day, and then some reply comments where we're like, well, what about mail-in ballots? And what about proof of citizenship? And I said, listen, doing anything in the direction of just getting it started, give us something, right? I mean, Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a two-pronged approach that we're doing here. We're putting that in the ballot. We're on the ballot. We're keeping it simple. You complicate the ballot, and if it's complicated and hard to understand, people vote no. However, we still have the ability to add it to the mail-in ballots legislatively, and we have also at the same time, the same session. In fact, before we passed the part for the referendum, SJR 10, we passed HB 472, which also says that for mail-in ballots, you have to have a photo ID. So it's a two-pronged approach, but we're covering the mail-in ballots as well.
Always good to see that. Anything that goes toward election security or election integrity, awesome to see it. What else is going on there in Ohio? What are you seeing there? What are you working on? What are the constituents saying to you, sir?
Well, very good. That's a good question. And one of the things we're really working on right now is data centers as well. That's a big news item here in Ohio. I have a Bill 646, which was created to establish a data center study commission that passed the Ohio House unanimously back in March. Went to the Senate, and the Senate said, let's do this to be more efficient. Let's create a select committee, data centers. That's a tongue twister. Data center study committee. And combined with some of the leaders in both the House and the Senate, and so we put that together. Have had a number of hearings, and we're just trying to come to some consensus on the best way to move forward. And I'm not necessarily a critic of the data centers, but neither a proponent. We just want to make sure it's done right. A lot of people in our communities have a lot of concerns about them. The use of agricultural land, how does it affect the water, tax abatements, things like that, energy, bring your own energy, things like that. So we're trying to put some common sense policies in place. We didn't quite get there to get across the finish line yet, but we are continuing to work on that. And that's one of the biggest issues in Ohio right now.
Exactly. A lot of rural area in Ohio outside of Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, of course, and you have Akron and these other towns. But yeah, it's a big, big state there. Let's talk about some other states. So let's talk about to the north of you, kind of, Chicago, Illinois. We look at, Mayor Brandon Johnson there. You look at J.B. Pritzker. You look at these leftists that just don't have the people's interests at heart. What is it like to, work in state government there in Ohio, but you look out and you see these other things happening across the country?
Well, Ohio is the heart of it all, and a lot of good stuff starts here. And we're looking forward. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be our next governor, along with now Senate President Rob McCauley is going to be our lieutenant governor. And I think that's going to add a lot of steam to the things that we're doing. And Ohio is no longer a purple state. We're a red state, and that means we're going to get things done. We're going to do a whole lot better than Pritzker, who just lost. Who did he lose? The Bears to Indiana? Really? Wow, that's incredible. I just saw that today. So we're doing things right. We've got a strong legislature. We've got just some good people who are serving our community, and we're fighting for what's right. You just go back to even putting this referendum on the ballot for voter ID. It's so incredible how many Democrats want something on the ballot when they think it favors them. They gotta let the people speak. Let the people speak until you want them to speak on this, and they're not going to say what the Democrats want. Then they're like, no, don't do this. We can't let the people speak. We got to silence the people because they're going to do what we don't want them to do. Well, we're here to stand up for the people in the great state of Ohio. We're going to give them their voice, and we can tell you right now how they're going to vote. They're going to vote for voter ID in the state of Ohio. Photo ID.
It'll be great to see it. And this is why I wanted to bring you on, sir, because I saw this headline the other day about Ohio and voter ID. And previously, I was saying if the Save America Act doesn't pass from the federal government, specifically Congress, then these local and state governments should pass as much of the part of it or all of it as much as they can within those governments. Do you agree?
Right. The states are the laboratories of democracy. We listen. We don't have to wait on the federal government to do these things. We can go ahead and get it started. We create the movement, and then Congress can pick up on that and say, "Hey, well, look what these guys have done. Let's go ahead and make it, federal." I've done the same thing with the SAFE Act. Preventing childhood mutilation here for gender reassignment purposes. And you might have seen, just did an interview earlier. Cleveland Clinic was just found out for miscoding, and they were coding things differently than what they should have been to have this covered and to continue to provide these procedures for minors that are unsafe. And I told them, I said, listen, our children are not your science experiments. And so now they have committed to not doing that for the next 20 years, which I'm not sure why they put a 20-year cap on that. Like, how about we just say never, ever?
Right.
But they're also going to spend some money on making sure to help these young people who realize what mistake they made and to do some restorative procedures. I've talked to Chloe many times, a friend of mine, and that's one of the problems that she and Prisha and others face is when they realize that they made a mistake, when they realize that they were conned and they try to go back as far as they can to what they were, the hospitals don't want to help them. And at first they tell us they're not doing it, and then, okay, well, we are doing it, and now we're going to stop doing it. But we don't want to help. Okay, now we're going to help these kids. And they donate. They committed finances to making sure to help these children. And so we're moving in the right direction. Things are going in the right direction. But we got to keep up the fight. The fight never ends, and so we don't quit.
That's the truth right there. We are freedom fighters, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, freedom fighting legally, lawfully, and spiritually across this country. Two more items quickly to get you on, one in New York and one in Ireland of all places. But if you go several hundred miles to your east, of course, New York City, speaking about the same topic you're talking about, did you know that Mamdani the other day announced $15 million for New Yorkers for the whole community to allow more gender affirming care? They're using the tax dollars to push even terrible things. Just your quick reaction on that.
Well, they're trying to play God, and they're not. There's a problem with that is the role's already filled, and they're going to do more harm. We know from the science. Yeah. We know from the science that this promotes suicidal ideology in kids because they get a false promise like, oh, I can be something that I'm not. And really, it's a mental health issue that these kids are facing. We should love these kids enough to tell them the truth. And this is not going to solve your problems, because what kids do after they buy this lie, they realize, oh, I thought I could turn into a girl, but I can't. Or I thought I could be a boy and I'm not. And then that depression just doubles down inside of them, and they feel used, they feel worn out, they feel cheated, they feel lied to. And that's why that suicide rate raises by 19 times. And the other thing here in Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland, I've got a bill HB 693, the Affirming Families First Act. They were actually, even after we passed the SAFE Act, any child that was coming into contact with them in their children's services, they start interviewing that. They have a whole script, and they're required to ask every child. And as you well know, every accusation is investigated. So every child that comes in contact, they're saying, well, do you feel like a boy? Do you feel like a girl? Do you like boys or do you like girls? And then they're writing it, keeping track of it in a database. And they had a young boy on there as young as 5 years old listed as gay and being affirmed by his parents. And by the way, if you're not an affirming parent, then they say you're dangerous, you're a harm to your child. And so we wrote this to say, no, it is not a danger to affirm your child's sex. And we reclaimed the language, because they always talk about affirming, and it sounds so lovely, sounds so flowery, sounds so nice, but they're affirming a lie. There's no such thing as a gender identity that is separate from who you are, separate from your sex. And they call it conversion therapy if you don't tell a boy he's a girl. And I think what they're doing is conversion therapy. They asked me, they said, so what do you think about conversion therapy? I said, I don't believe you ought to be converting little boys into little girls. It doesn't work. And so they're trying to still push on that button. And we're saying, no, Calling a boy is not harmful. Calling a girl is not harmful. Telling Johnny he's a boy, Susie she's a girl, that is not harmful. And you're not going to go in and tell the parents that they have to do this under the threat of losing custody of their children, under threat of being bullied and told that, no, you have to change your religion if your religion says something different from that. I'm not putting up with it. The great state of Ohio is not putting up with it. We are going to push back. We've noticed the evil never quits. Sin never stops. They're always going to push their wicked liberal agenda on us, but we're always here to fight back and to push back, and we're gonna save our children.
Perfectly said. Ohio Representative Gary Click joining us right now. And like I mentioned earlier, talking about Ireland as well, outside of New York, where it got this whole conversation really going, was the mass migration that they're seeing in Europe right now. That's a big story overseas right now, specifically Ireland, because of a terrible incident that I'm not going to rehash that happened recently. But the Irish people are saying enough is enough. We're not doing that here in our country. Your thoughts about right now in Ohio? Are you seeing illegal immigrants a lot in your? Is it a big problem in your state right now with ICE, or what's going on there?
I don't know if it's illegal as much as it is the legal. I mean, we do have the illegals. There's no doubt about it. Actually have a bill about that called it's HB 200, the America First Act, and it simply says if it's illegal for you to be in America, it's illegal for you to be in the United States, and the penalty is a $500 fine, 1 year in jail, and when you get out of jail within the first 48 hours, you need to skedaddle out of Ohio. And the message is, if you're going to be in the United States illegally, Ohio is not the place to do it. But we've also, I introduced that first during the Biden administration. We've revised it since then and updated the language. But it also says that, during that time, we can turn them over to ICE to be deported and removed. They don't have to stay here a year. Let's get them out of the country. Listen, I don't despise immigrants. My niece married a guy from Canada. Great. He had to come in the legal way. And I know many people who've come here and they've come here the legal way. That's great. We welcome that. But part of the legal way, and it's a biblical thing, is assimilation. If you're going to come into this country, that's because you think there's something better in this country than the country you're leaving. And so if you want what's better in this country, then become an American and learn what America is about. What made America great to begin with. Don't just come for our resources, but come for our soul, come for our heart, come for who we are, and make that a part of who you are. But if you're leaving a third world country that you hate and that is disgusting to you, not to us, I'm saying to you, and you want to leave that because you have no opportunity, when you come to the land of opportunity, participate in that opportunity and find out what gives you that opportunity and participate in that and preserve that heritage for the next generation.
And it's exactly right. It's the U.S. Constitution, the law of the land here is the law, of course, and there are some that are trying to push some other laws that are unfortunately happening in Europe, aka Sharia law. So it's not against, and as Senator Tommy Tuberville said just earlier this week, he was saying, if you're a practicing Muslim and you're in this country and you're going along with the Constitution and all the things and you're not pushing Sharia law, fine. But if you're trying to push something that is not only anti the Constitution, but anti-morality, if you don't submit to something, you die, death to America, that kind of thing.
Well, Sharia is not a religion; it's a law, and that's what people need to understand. I am actually the vice chair for Ohio for the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, NACL. And I just came from a conference there at Liberty University, and they were talking about some legislation across the nation. I think Texas has already passed it, that no Sharia law. And that is not religious persecution. Listen, our law is, we don't have quote unquote Christian law either. We don't put in the Constitution that you should have this religion or that religion, or you have to, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ changed my life. He saved my soul. He forgave my sins. Amen. But I am not going to try to force other people to do that. And even when I ran the SAFE Act, I had people from all walks of life that came and supported that. One of the ladies that actually became a good friend of mine is an atheist, and she doesn't believe, and I keep working on her. And she asked me to marry her, and I not me personally. Let me get that straight.
That's the way I just took it.
I've got a good wife, and I love my wife. I'm turning red here on TV, but she asked me to perform her wedding ceremony, and I said I can do that, but if I do that, I'm going to talk to you about Jesus Christ. I'm going to mention Jesus. And she said, "That's great." But I don't try to make her or anyone else follow my religion. We're not going to, we don't have religious laws in the United States. We have the freedom of religion. not freedom from religion, but the freedom of religion. And we're not going to impose anyone's law except American law, constitutional law, on anyone, anywhere.
If you're just joining us, this is an Ohio state representative. He's in state government, Gary Click. I'm gonna have to follow you on X, sir, because what you're saying is so right on the money. But here's my question to you. Have you ever run for federal government? Have you ever tried to throw your hat in the ring in Congress?
Oh, great question. Well, I had considered, I really haven't looked at it seriously, but I did consider it, because for a time I was in the 9th Congressional District. We're just actually moved in the last redistricting, but I used to have Jim Jordan, and we did some redistricting that I voted against because people said, why did you vote against the redistricting? And I said, I can't go home and tell people I traded Jim Jordan for Marcy Kaptur. I'd get voted out immediately. But we did end up with Marcy, and I had considered that. But I had some other good colleagues that were running for that. And right now, Derek Marin is the Republican candidate for that seat, and he's going to do a fine job. I look forward to him beating Marcy and winning. But I'm actually have been moved into Bob Latta's seat now, and I don't believe in running against my good conservative colleagues when they're doing a good job, so I'm not going to challenge them. And I honestly, I just put myself in the Lord's hands, and if the Lord wants me to run for something, I run for it when that opportunity arises. But I didn't even go looking for this. The Lord opened these doors, and the people in the district asked me to run. And matter of fact, when I was contemplating it, people said, "Are you going to run? Are you going to run?" I said, "Well, I'm still praying about it." And they said, "Quit praying about it and just do something." And so I did, but I still felt like it was the Lord's calling to do it, and the Lord is blessed. And I feel like I've been able to make a positive impact on the state of Ohio and a little bit beyond that. Just the Department of Health here, the National Department of Health, used some of the language from 693 when they made their executive orders regarding gender transition and sex rejecting procedures. They borrowed actually some of the language from my legislation. So I feel like I've been able to have a big impact in doing what I'm doing. And listen, it's not about me. It's only about serving the people, serving God. And as long as I can do that, I'll be here. When the Lord says the time is up for that, I'll do something else. But I'm always going to be giving back to my community. And I feel like I'm always going to do my best to serve the Lord wherever he calls me.
Awesome. Nothing to say other than amen. And this has been a great interview. I've had a pleasure talking to you. If you'd like to follow me on X, it's at Matthew Alvarez, or actually Matthew US Media, and I'll follow you right back. Even if you don't follow me, I'm still following you.
Click for Ohio.
Okay. Thank you so much. Gary Click, the Ohio representative. Thanks again for what you're doing for this country.
All right. God bless you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, man.